Hey everyone, my name is Mariana, and I am the host of the Commitment to Growth podcast, as well as the founder of the resilience life coaching platform Commitment to Growth. This is a personal growth oriented space dedicated to helping ambitious young adults who want to develop long lasting resilience in their personal, professional, and social lives. I coach on all things mindset development, reframing limiting thought patterns, habit building, vulnerability, and emotional freedom techniques, and more, all through evidence based practice and lots of raw and honest conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and let's dive right in. Thank you for committing to growth with me today. If you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back to the Commitment to Growth podcast. This is yours truly, the host, founder, and voice behind this platform, Mariana. It is so lovely to have you here with me today. How you doing? How is your body feeling? How's your soul feeling today? And how are you showing up to this conversation today? Are you feeling like you need some words of wisdom or guidance, or are you expecting a certain outcome from yourself? And if that is the case, I encourage you to drop any expectations, to just release them, allow yourself to be here as you are, because you don't need fixing, and this is exactly where you need to be. Life is happening for you, not to you. And we're going to talk about how to let ourselves allow life in today, because this is truly the season that I'm in right now. I just got off of a coaching call with one of my clients for my signature one-on-one program, Evolution, and we had some huge breakthroughs today and some very inspired action taking. And I felt compelled to record this episode immediately after that, because I feel like I'm in energy of creation and giving following that conversation. But also, I think one of the best parts about being a life coach, and I'm sure any therapist or coach of any kind can relate to this, one of the most humbling and dearest parts of this process is that you are continuously coaching yourself. Evolution, that signature program that I was coaching that client through, that program was birthed from the process that I have taken and created for myself over and over again to attain my desires, to transcend my limiting beliefs. And today was a really humbling experience, because what I was coaching this client through is very much what I think I am shedding in a lot of my life right now. And I'll get into that, what that stuff is in a moment. But to see your process help someone else and reaffirm to you that it does work, with the commitment and the willingness and the courage to go all in, is just such a affirmation to me, but also such encouragement, right? That what I'm braving right now in my own life, no matter what, these are tools that I can always fall back on, and that I get to share with somebody else now to help them break through in their lives. So very inspiring morning, to say the least. I am sitting with my puppy, my 16-year-old puppy beside me today. She's a little sick, unfortunately, but she is accompanying me during this podcast episode, and I am gearing up to pick up and leave the country, leave Canada for about 6 to 8 weeks, 3 days from now, as I record this. And this episode is largely about that, because this is a huge transition in my life. So for those of you that may not have been here in the previous episode, or may not have heard it before, or seen what I've been posting on Instagram, I made the decision about a month ago that I was going to quit my healthcare job and go all in on my business, into commitment to growth, into coaching, into building this community, into having this reach, and going in on this passion that I have built, which is teaching women how to build resilient foundations that lead to a fulfilling and aligned life. And obviously a huge step, because I have the foundation, I have clients, I have the building blocks, but I'm still a one man team. I edit and post content about these episodes that you're listening to right now. I'm the face behind every social media post, every contract, every automation. Like, it's still a one man team, and I think that on its own is scary, because the part of you that is resistant to hard work can kind of kick in and say like, oh, like there's so much effort that's going to come with this journey, but also what if that effort doesn't pay off? And that's something that I've been really, really grappling with, like just this fear of, well, what if I don't achieve the outcome that I consider to be success? And in that has come a very interesting time of reflection and of feeling a lot of anxiety, because I think that when you take a big radical step in the direction of your dreams, when you are placing a radical amount of trust and faith and belief and courage in yourself to pursue something that is in direct alignment with your purpose, you will come up against what's called your upper limit of positivity. I learned this concept from Brianna Wiest. She, on her own podcast, she is the author of The Mountain Is You. I've mentioned her on here loads of times before. I just love her. Her work has changed my life and moved me in many ways, but she talks about this concept of the upper limit of positivity, which for many of us, if we grew up in chaos or kind of always having a set limit of this is how much we allowed ourselves to let into our lives, as far as love, as far as joy, as far as success, as far as abundance, when we start to up level in our own life, unless we do the work to recognize where that threshold for positivity in our lives lies, or less we do the work to recognize that we are coming up against that bar, we will self-sabotage ourselves back into staying small and accepting only what we have allowed ourselves to accept up until this point in our lives. And for me, this has been a huge, huge growth journey in raising that bar, because I'm the first of my family on both sides, immediate and extended family, to do what I'm doing right now, which is starting a business on my own in this field, in the field of coaching, in the field of helping people. And that's scary because you have no examples mirrored back to you. I'm also the only person in my friend circle that's doing this, the first of my friends to start my own business and just be putting out all day, every day, basically. And the part of us that seeks comfort is looking for examples in our immediate life to reflect back to us what we're doing, to affirm to us that, yes, I'm on the right path. But if you're the only one that is doing this out of the people that you immediately know, odds are that example isn't going to be mirrored back to you. And so you can enter this quick cycle of self-sabotage because you're like, am I really on the right path? And I think that what I've truly learned to accept and lean into is this idea that the only way that you'll ever know if you're truly on the right path is based on how it feels to you, irrespective of whether or not you have examples to mirror back to you what you're looking for validation for. And it's an uncertainty that is uncomfortable, for sure, because the work to raise that bar involves you shedding everything that is preventing you from raising that bar. How much love do you actually think and believe that you are worthy of receiving? How much joy, how much success do you think you're capable of building for yourself? That has been so big to me. I was such an anxious, insecure kid when I did sport. I was a competitive gymnast. I can now, as an adult, like over a decade later, look back and reflect on how hard I self-sabotaged myself going into some of the biggest competitions in my life that I had qualified for. But I would get up on the beam or I would get on the floor and just freak myself out because I didn't know what it was like to not fail in my eyes back then. I didn't know what it was like to have this transcendental moment where I just put all this belief in myself and trusted that there was more on the other side of that, more joy, more possibility. I didn't know what it was like to celebrate myself. And so, because I didn't understand any of that, how could I possibly show up any differently or show up in a way that would yield me a greater result than what I knew at the time? Because I didn't know any of this back then. I wish I did. And I hope that, as much as I think not every 13, 14-year-old listening to podcast, my hope is that this eventually reaches that audience one day, because it's something that I wish I knew back then, because I think now when I run into that line, as I am right now, I could have sat in that for longer to understand that it isn't that I can't do more. It's that I don't yet know what more is, looks like, or feels like. I just have my guiding light of visualization and of my vision to set my North Star for what I think I want. But really, it's about, okay, yes, I'm aiming for that target. It may not be in the end exactly as I envision it to look like right now, but in order for me to reach that target, that gap that has to be filled is acquiring the skills and awareness and vulnerability and surrender to allow more into my life. And putting this faith in myself now of, you're your own boss, you're directly responsible for the outcome of your business. And I've always been, of course, but when you don't have a crutch of another source of income, it's a lot different. The pressure's on, right? Or at least I put pressure on myself. But when I made the decision to leave my job and to travel South America and go see my family in Mexico for this amount of time, there was a part of me that arrived at that decision on her own. And in the thick of it, as it's coming up and the deadline's setting upon you and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's coming at me so fast, you will start to sabotage right there and then, because that is where you're hitting your bar of positivity, of allowance. And the work now is sitting in the discomfort of the things that are tempting you to return to old ways, of how much you've accepted in the past, of how capable you've known yourself to be in the past. Gone unrecognizable, so easy to tell ourselves, well, I'm not worthy, I'm feeling all this fear because it's not what I'm meant to do, what I'm meant to receive, what I'm meant to create. But leaning into the trust of, you arrived at this decision for a reason, and you have to trust that you have built the necessary foundation to give way to what you desire. There's a reason why you arrived at that decision in the first place, right? And the work now is sitting with the parts of you that are tempted to convince you that you're not worthy of more, that you're not worthy of what you want to create for yourself. I wanted to take a moment to read you some client reviews that recently came in for my Growth Hour Sisterhood. This one is from Anna, and she said, I attended Mariana's workshop this past weekend, and I was so impressed by her knowledge of what truly happens to our nervous system and how it affects us due to past conditioning. I also really loved the thought-provoking questions and compassionate and warm space she provided for us. I would highly recommend. Mariana, I really fell in love with your heart. It is so pure and true, and it will help so many. Thank you so much, Anna. That made me absolutely shed tears of happiness. I loved reading that. And this one is from Kate. Kate says, Mariana does an excellent job at facilitating her group sessions and becoming one with the group. Inclusivity is a strong point in making sure that all All that want to share are able to. She creates a wonderful safe spot for people to share and gives wonderful places to start and continue their journey of self-discovery and self-love. I can't recommend her services enough. Thank you so much, Kate. That made me feel so seen, and that is truly the only place from which I ever serve and give to this community. If you are a woman 18 years of age or older, a self-identifying woman, you are invited to join my monthly growth hour sisterhood. It is completely free. We meet on Zoom, so you can meet with us wherever you are in the world. We do a monthly masterclass every year based on a specific theme. For February coming up, it is January as I'm recording this, but February coming up, we are doing our monthly masterclass on why you are the one, shedding negative beliefs around relationships and waiting for the right person, and why love and manifesting relationships begins from within. And we also do a second event every month, which is kind of a to be determined based on what the energy is, what people are craving. So this is very much where you can come and give your feedback on what you want to see and how you want to connect with other people. And our second event for February is going to be a self-love journal club. So I'm going to be bringing some really, really sweet and encouraging prompts on self-love, self-compassion, self-discovery, and you'll just kind of get to journal with us. So if you're interested, head to meetup.com, look up Growth Hour Sisterhood, or you can type in www.meetup.com/growth-hour. It will be available in the show note description as well. Join us completely free of charge, attend our one events. And I also do draws every single monthly masterclass for one person that gets a free 1 hour coaching session with me. So if that's something you're interested in, you can get grabs at that. So once again, Growth Hour Sisterhood on Meetup. Join us wherever you are in the world. We'd love to see you there. And I can't wait to connect with you in there with all the incredible women that we have in that space. Join us and join this incredible community. This past weekend, and it's Monday as I'm recording this, I attended Tony Robbins's Time to Rise Summit. He does this every year. It's a 3-day completely free event. It's kind of the prequel into his signature program, Unleash the Power Within, which is absolutely on my bucket list to do one day. And he brings in this concept of identity that I talk about and emphasize a lot through my coaching, particularly evolution, which is all about identity reframing and taking inspired action towards who we want to become. But in it, he said something that I hadn't really considered about identity before. And it's this idea that, and I think the quote, I have it written down right here. I'm going to open the tab where I have it. Here it is. He says, the strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Think about that for a moment, because I think that that is truly at the crux of why we upper limit ourselves in our positivity, right? Because when we see ourselves a certain way, as a certain identity, at a certain threshold of being worthy of a certain amount of positivity, of love, of success, we will stay consistent with that identity. We will do things that only allow in a certain amount of abundance. We will associate ourselves with people who only give us a certain amount of depth and connection. We will seek opportunities that only push us to a certain level of growth or leadership, of challenge, of service, because we haven't done the work to love ourselves and nurture a version of ourselves that opens themselves up to more. And that's okay, right? Because so much of who we are today is in alignment with what we saw. I know for me, I'm the daughter of immigrants. Like, my family and I moved here when I was 6 years old, but in Mexico City, where I was born, there is such a upper bar for positivity that I think everybody there experiences, right? There's so much public unsafety, there's so much corruption that I go down there now and I talk to my family, and all I hear is like, oh, but I can't do that because there's no opportunities off. But I can't do that because there's no money in that. Oh, but I can't do that because it's not safe. And the safety part is so, so warranted. But coming here, I'm so privileged to be in a society where there is so much more at arm's reach from me if I really just put myself in those positions, and I have, right? But then you're tempted, and I get tempted to return to that mindset all the time because I think I hear my family repeating it, right? There's this notion of play it small because there's danger in trying to raise your bar, in trying to challenge yourself, in going forth and flirting with failure, almost depending on what you define failure as to be, right? I don't really believe in failure. Failure is not doing, in my opinion. That's what I define failure to be. But anyways, that's what I grew up knowing. That's what has continuously been fed to me. That is what is continuously mirrored back to me. And people don't know what they don't know, including myself. And so you arrive at this place of, oh, raising that bar also means defining a new idea of what positivity is to me, of what success is to me, of what love is to me. And that is where the work really begins. That's the catalyst to, okay, if I need to let more love in because I want to experience more fulfilling relationships, and I want to experience more depth in my relationships, and I want to meet more people that embrace that depth, what makes you think that you're not worthy of more of that? Or what is stopping you from really embracing more of that in your life? That was actually the exact work that I was working through with my client with today. And you start to really see your past and how it's controlling how you show up today. Now, another thing to think about when you are doing the work to set that new definition for yourself and raise your own bar. As Tony said, the hardest hurdle to jump over for us will be recognizing how the ways that we are showing up are consistent with how we see ourselves, right? That is alignment. We have to shift our compass, our line of direction to be in line with a new identity, right? If my core belief is that I am unlovable, then I will act in ways that prove my unlovability to myself. But if I want to believe to myself that I am lovable, the first step in that direction, and this is something that came up in my workshop, my inner child healing and self-love transformation workshop last weekend. It was a wonderful event with 16 women, and we got so vulnerable, and we cried and we laughed and we told the deepest stories. And among them, I was teaching them this concept of how, again, you will act in the ways that align with how you view yourself. And I had this one woman ask me, well, what is the way out of that? How do you start actually convincing yourself that you are worthy of how you want to see yourself, of taking on this new identity, of embodying this new version of yourself? Because there's a reason why not everybody jives with affirmations, right? Affirmations don't work for everybody because it's way more a cognitive process than it is embodiment of that new identity. You can recite to yourself a million times, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I am confident, and it'll never stick if it's not followed by action. Thought without action to back it, thought without emotional action to back it, is just thought. It's not reality. You always, always, always have to follow intentions with action. And my answer to her was, sometimes you have to do before you allow yourself to think too much. because you almost have to prove yourself wrong about why you believe that you might not be capable of doing a certain thing, right? Tony also said it in his seminar this weekend. He says, in order to evolve into the version of yourself that you want to become, you have to do something that is inconsistent with how you used to see yourself, but consistent with how you want to see yourself. So that might be that you join a networking group to start stepping into the identity of business owner instead of shying away because you don't believe that you are capable of taking on that identity. It might be that you tell your partner how important it is that they see your needs as their needs instead of staying silent because you used to see yourself as unlovable, but now you want to see yourself as somebody who is worthy of the same love that you give to other people. It's about taking the action to give yourself evidence in support of who you want to step into, because that version of you is already within you. You have to trust that. You have to know that the only reason why that seed is in your mind right now is because there is a part of you that knows that that version is attainable. Otherwise that vision wouldn't even be in your scope of imagination. One thing I did yesterday too, to further feed this notion of think less, do more, is so last weekend, like a week ago today, one of my best friends had come down from a few cities away to attend my in-person workshop. It was just the sweetest act of kindness, right? Which, by the way, a past version of me would not have believed it, that she did that for me. She would have been like, no, nobody cares about what I do, really. Like, nobody in my close friend circle gives a damn about what I do. They're not interested. But when she told me that she was coming down, I was like, hey, thank you. That's really sweet. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, your time, your weekend to drive all the way down here to attend this workshop and spend time with me, right? But it was in knowing that because that's the version of myself that I've shown up to other people for. I've been the friend that has rented a car and driven up to her city to watch that friend recite poetry, right? That's the friend I show up as, and therefore that same level of love is being reciprocated back to me through that friend's actions, right? But anyways, this friend and I, we had gone for a hike and we had planned on cold plunging after. Now, it had snowed around this time in Vancouver, so there was still snow on the ground, and the day that we happened to go on our hike, it was rainy and the forest was so cold. And so by the time we finished our hike, we were soaking wet and freezing, and I backed out of that cold plunge. I didn't do it. I was like, I can't. It's going to hurt. I'm too cold already. I'm going to get sick. Like, my mind was coming up with every single reason why I couldn't, or I shouldn't. And I left with my ego so damaged and so bruised and feeling so guilty because I was like, man, like, a split-second decision that you allowed yourself to back out of because your mind started creating narratives, right? I made a reel a couple months ago. I don't know if many of you who saw, you can always scroll back to my Instagram to look at it. And it was me getting ready to go for a run, and I had said, what did I say? It was something like, I'm feeling scared. I don't want to do this, and that's okay. That's just my mind playing games. That's what I said. That whole reel is me just reciting that. And it's an affirmation that I forgot to recite to myself in that moment. And so yesterday, I'm sitting through the Tony Robbins Time to Rise Summit, the replay, because I couldn't join live the day before. And he's talking about how he cold plunges every day, snow or not, into this freezing water by a river near his home, and how getting in your own head makes you get in your own way. And so I quite literally stopped the video halfway through as soon as he finished saying that, grabbed a towel, put on biker shorts and a sports bra, got in my car, drove to that same lake where my friend and I had hiked last weekend. And I can't even describe to you what it was or the feeling, but it was just this feeling of don't think, just do. And I just like being guided by something. I walked to a spot near the lake and just got in, freezing my butt off. Like it hurt so bad. My feet are in so much pain, but I got in, I stayed in there, I breathed, I got out, and then when you get out, you feel like really warm, right? Because the outside comparison to the inside of the water is way warmer. And just the feeling of calm and focus and peace that ensued the rest of the day, because that's cold exposure, right? Is the physiological benefit of that is so amazing. And that was it. It was 3 minutes of my life. 3 minutes of my life. And that's the same for the big decisions we take. That goes the same for the small but massive action that we take towards our dreams. It's moments out of our lives. Moments out of our lives. And often, if not always, that's all it takes to reset our baseline, to prove to ourselves that everything we want is on its way if we make the space for it by moving towards that. So, my challenge to you after this episode is to ask yourself, how are you upper limiting yourself? If you're struggling to allow more love and more happiness into your life, what parts of you feel unworthy? What parts of you don't believe in your capacity to achieve the things you are working towards? How you raise the bar is dependent on how you allow yourself to meet those parts of yourself and then take action that is consistent with who you want to become to prove to yourself that it's possible. The seed is in you because your time is now. And that's the other thing, right? The time is now. The time is not tomorrow. The time was not yesterday. The time is now. How you nurture that seed, put fertilizer on it, water it, talk to it with compassion is how the plant will grow. And what will grow from the seed? Are you going to get a weed or are you going to get a tree? That's your challenge following this episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day, my friends. Thank you so much again for choosing to spend your personal development and self-discovery practice with me today. I hope that episode served you. And if you are also entering into a season of shedding and working through your shadows, send me a DM on Instagram because I would love to know what you're working through and connect with you and offer you some support. If this spoke to you, give it a like, subscribe to the show, send it to a friend who might find it helpful, and stay connected by following me on Instagram. It's at Commitment to Growth. I'm on TikTok as well under that same handle, at Commitment to Growth. And if you are looking for a coach, a source of guidance to help you through those limiting belief blocks, I am accepting entries now for my one-on-one program, Evolution. It's 6 weeks of diving deep into your desires, getting you aligned with your desires, exploring what is hindering you from achieving those desires, and also helping you habit stack and take inspired action in that direction. We work with your inner child, we work with your limiting beliefs, we work with your authentic essence, we work with the things that you want but haven't allowed yourself to receive, and start carving the path to get you there, to get you your dream life. And I would love to help you out with that. So head to www.commitmenttogrowth.com/evolution to check it out. I've got all the descriptions of the modules that you can expect there, as well as what comes in your bundle, because it's much more than just the coaching. And I look forward to working with you. And I will see you in the next episode on the other side of my travels. I will see you then.